Kaya became obsessed with the idea of gaining weight, believing it was the only way she would ever be accepted. She began to eat far more than her body needed, forcing herself to consume large portions of yam, fufu, and palm oil stew at every meal. The aroma of the stew filled the air, but to Kaya it only symbolized the pressure she felt. She would sit in front of a mountain of food, sweating as she shoved spoonful after spoonful into her mouth, determined to transform her body into something that would please the village's eyes. Yet no matter how much she ate, the weight never seemed to come. Ubala was a place like no other, a village where all the women were fat and robust except one maiden. In this peaceful paradise, every woman carried her weight with pride, moving through life with the assurance that her appearance pleased both her ancestors and her future in-laws. The colorful kente fabrics wrapped around their waists seemed to flow like waves as they moved, their laughter echoing across the thatched roof huts. This belief had been passed down from generations, unchallenged until the day a peculiar child was born to Zina and Omari. Zina and Omari were well respected in the village, known for their kindness and generosity. When Zina became pregnant, the entire village was excited. Her pregnancy was smooth, and when the time came, Zina gave birth to a baby girl that they named Kaya. But as the midwife held up the baby for all to see, a hush fell over the room. Kaya was not like the other babies. She was small, her limbs delicate, and her cheeks lacking the usual chubbiness that the village midwives loved to see. A murmur spread through the room, and some of the older women exchanged concerned glances, their beads clinking as they shifted uneasily. "Is she ill?" someone whispered, fanning herself nervously. But the midwife quickly reassured them, saying she is healthy, just different. The gods have their plans. Zina and Omari loved their daughter dearly and raised her with all the care in the world. But as Kaya grew, it became evident that she was not like the other children. While the other girls began to develop rounded cheeks and fuller frames, Kaya remained slender, her figure almost ethereal. She had an inner light that shone through her eyes, a light that made her seem like she belonged to another world. From the moment Kaya could walk, she became the subject of whispers and gossip. The other children would point at her, giggling and calling her a stick or the slim one. She tried to join their games, but they often excluded her. Whenever she tried to dance during their mating ceremonies, the other girls would laugh and say, "Your legs are too thin for the dance. Go and play with the boys." The vibrant drumming that usually filled her heart with joy now felt like a cruel mockery. Kaya's heart was heavy with loneliness. She would often retreat to the quiet fields at the edge of the village, where the tall grass swayed in the wind, offering her a haven to cry in peace. Her parents noticed her sadness and tried to comfort her. "You are special, Kaya," her mother would say while brushing her hair by the dim light of an oil lamp. "The gods have given you a beauty that is all your own. One day, you will understand why you are the way you are." But these few words did little to ease Kaya's pain. She felt like an outcast in her own village. One day, after another round of taunts from the other girls, she ran to the riverbank and cried until her eyes were sore. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, an old woman approached her. It was Mama Jua, the village healer, known for her wisdom and mysterious ways. Her walking stick tapped rhythmically against the ground as she moved. "Why do you cry, little one?" Mama Jua asked gently, her voice like a soothing balm. "I am not like the others. I am not beautiful like them. I am too thin, too different. Kaya replied, her voice breaking. Mama Jua smiled, her wrinkles deepening as she sat beside her on the grassy bank. Listen, child, she began. The gods do not make mistakes. Every leaf, every tree, and every person has a purpose. Your difference is your strength. One day, the world will see what makes you special. Kaya listened, comforted by the old woman's words, but doubt still clouded her heart. The constant mockery ate away at her confidence. Kaya became obsessed with the idea of gaining weight, believing it was the only way she would ever be accepted. She began to eat far more than her body needed, forcing herself to consume large portions of yam, fufu, and palm oil stew. She sat at every meal in front of a mountain of food, the steam fogging her vision as tears welled in her eyes. She ate, sweating until her stomach ached, determined to transform her body into something that would please the village's eyes. Yet no matter how much she ate, the weight never seemed to come. Her body remained lean, refusing to conform to the ideal shape everyone expected. In desperation, she turned to the other maidens, who, despite their taunts, took pity on her. They whispered to her of herbal concoctions passed down by their mothers, secret potions that could supposedly help a maiden gain weight quickly. Desperate and naive, Kaya agreed to try these concoctions. Each day, she would drink a new mixture, choking down the bitter taste, clinging to the hope that this one would finally work. One of the girls gave her a particularly potent mixture, swearing it had helped her cousin gain weight in just a month. Drink it 3 times a day, she advised. You will see a difference soon. Just keep at it, she added. Kaya did as she was told. She drank the concoction religiously, ignoring the nausea that often followed. The bitterness lingered on her tongue, but she swallowed it down, forcing herself to believe it was a small price to pay. She felt her stomach twist and cramp painfully, as though it were rejecting the very thing she hoped would change her life. The nights grew harder. Her sleep was restless, interrupted by bouts of dizziness and cold sweats, but she convinced herself that this discomfort was proof the potion was working. She became weaker with each passing day, her skin growing pale, but she persisted. The desire to be accepted, to be seen as beautiful, pushed her to endure the discomfort. One morning, Kaya woke up feeling faint, her head spinning like the drums during festival season. The morning sun streamed through the cracks in the wooden walls, but to Kaya, it felt unbearably bright. Her body was drenched in sweat, and she could barely stand. Determined to keep going, she forced herself to drink another dose of the concoction. The bitter liquid slid down her throat like fire, but as soon as it touched her lips, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen. She doubled over, clutching her stomach, her breath coming in heavy gasps. The pounding in her ears drowned out all other sounds as she collapsed to the ground. Her parents, Xena and Omari, heard her cries and rushed into her room. The panic in their eyes was palpable as they took in the sight of their daughter, writhing in pain on the floor. Xena knelt beside her, her hands trembling as she brushed Kaya's damp hair away from her face. Omari ran outside, calling for help, his voice booming across the village. Within minutes, the neighbors had gathered outside their small hut, their voices a mix of concern and curiosity. Mama Jua, her walking stick in hand, pushed her way through the crowd and knelt beside Kaya, Her sharp eyes quickly scanned the girl's frail form. "What has she taken, Mama?" Jua asked urgently, her tone leaving no room for hesitation. A girl who had come to see if Kaya had gained any weight yet stepped forward hesitantly. Her face was pale, and her voice trembled as she spoke. "She's been drinking a mixture to help her gain weight," she mumbled, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Mama Jua's face darkened, her usually calm demeanor replaced with sternness. "Foolish girl," she snapped. "Do you not know that these concoctions are dangerous? Everybody is different. What worked for another may kill someone else," she said, her voice rising with anger. With swift hands, Mama Jua began to administer a remedy to counter the effects of the toxic mixture. She pulled out a small pouch of dried herbs from her satchel, crushed them in her palm, and mixed them with water from the earthen jug nearby. The air filled with the sharp scent of the herbs as she pressed the mixture to Kaya's lips. "Drink, child," Mama Jua commanded softly but firmly. Kaya, barely conscious, managed to swallow the bitter antidote. The crowd outside murmured prayers as Xena held Kaya's hand tightly, her tears falling onto the mat below. For 3 days, Kaya lay in bed, weak and feverish. Her parents stayed by her side, Omari often pacing the room, while Xena whispered prayers to the gods. The neighbors took turns bringing food and supplies, their guilt evident in the quiet kindness they now showed. On the 4th day, as the morning sun bathed the room in a soft glow, Kaya finally opened her eyes. Her body ached as though it had been through a storm, but she was alive. She turned her head to see Mama Jua sitting nearby, her face lined with exhaustion. "You are lucky, child," the old woman said sternly. "The gods have spared you, but only just. You must never seek to change what the gods have given you. Your body is a gift, whether you see it that way or not," she added. As Kaya grew into her teenage years, the village began preparing for its grandest event, the annual Ubala festival. It was a time when young women would showcase their beauty, dance, and charm, hoping to catch the eyes of a suitor or, at the very least, earn the admiration of the village. The festival was also a chance to honor the ancestors and celebrate the village's culture. Every girl looked forward to the festival, and Kaya, despite her past rejections, hoped that this year would be different. She spent days weaving a beautiful dress from the finest fabric her parents could afford. The dress was simple yet elegant, highlighting her unique frame. When she put it on, even her mother gasped. "Kaya, you look like a goddess!" Xena exclaimed. But when Kaya arrived at the festival, the mocking began immediately. "Look at her," a guest sneered. "Who does she think she is with those tiny legs?" Kaya tried to smile, tried to enjoy the festival, but every laugh felt like a dagger to her heart. As the drumming began, Kaya stepped forward to join the dance, but the other girls blocked her path. "This is no place for you," said the most popular girl in the village. "Go see to the elders. Maybe they will appreciate your bones." The crowd laughed, and Kaya, faced with embarrassment, turned and fled. She ran through the fields, tears streaming down her face, feeling more alone than ever. She ran until she reached the old abandoned shrine at the edge of the village, where she collapsed, crying. It was there that she heard a voice. "Why do you weep, Kaya?" It was Mama Jua again, emerging from the shadows. "I am tired, Mama," Kaya sobbed. "I am tired of being different, tired of not belonging." Mama Jua nodded thoughtfully. The world is full of surprises, my dear. Sometimes what seems like a curse is actually a blessing in disguise. Trust the gods and trust yourself. Your time will come. Just as Mama Jua had predicted, Kaya's life was about to change. A few weeks after the festival, a stranger arrived in Ubala. His name was Omeka, a tall, charming man from the city with a reputation as a talent scout for a renowned modeling agency. He had heard of Ubala's unique festival and had come to see it for himself. Omeka was immediately struck by the unusual beauty of the village women, but something else caught his eyes. Amid the robust, curvy figures, he saw a slim, graceful girl standing alone by the riverbank. She seemed like a flower among trees, delicate yet strong. He approached her cautiously. "Hello, my name is Omeka." He introduced himself with a friendly smile. "I couldn't help but notice you. You have a rare kind of beauty, something unique and different. Have you ever considered modeling?" Kaya blinked, not quite understanding. "Modeling, what is that?" Omeka laughed softly. "It is a career where people like you, with a special look, showcase clothes, jewelry, and products. I believe you could be very successful," Omeka added. Kaya hesitated. She had never heard of such a thing, and it sounded almost too good to be true. "But I am not beautiful," she whispered, looking down. Omeka shook his head. "Who says so? The world is vast, and beauty is not one thing. Trust me, Kaya, you have something special." After speaking with Omeka, Kaya went home, her mind filled with thoughts. She told her parents about the strange man and his proposal. At first, they were worried, not wanting their daughter to leave for the city, but they saw a spark of hope in her eyes they had never seen before. "We will support you, Kaya, if this is what you truly want," Omari said. "But remember, the city is different from our village. It can be harsh and unforgiving," they advised. Kaya nodded, understanding the risks but feeling a burning desire to prove herself. She decided to take a chance and leave Ubala with Omeka. The villagers were shocked and some sneered. "She will come back with nothing," they scoffed. But Kaya's parents stood by her, and Mama Jua gave her a small charm for protection, whispering, "Remember, child, you are special." The city was overwhelming at first. It was loud, fast, and full of towering buildings, bustling markets, and people who seemed to move with a purpose. Kaya had never known anything like it. Everything was new, exciting, and terrifying at the same time. She had never seen so many cars, so many people in such a hurry, or such a dazzling array of lights that made the night feel like day. Omeka took her to his agency, where she was introduced to his business partner, Amara, a former model herself. Amara looked Kaya up and down, a skeptical look on her face. "Are you sure about this one, Omka?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "She doesn't look like the usual girls we work with." Omeka smiled. "That's exactly why I'm sure. She has a different kind of beauty, a freshness that the industry needs right now. Trust me, Amara, there's something special about her." Amara sighed, but agreed to give Kaya a chance. They started with training, teaching her how to walk, pose, and present herself in front of a camera. The first few weeks were difficult. Kaya struggled with her confidence, often feeling like she didn't belong. The city girls with their tall heels and perfect hair would glance at her and whisper, mocking her awkwardness. But Omeka was patient, encouraging her every step of the way. "You are doing great, Kaya," he would say. "Just be yourself. Let your uniqueness shine." Gradually, she began to find her rhythm. Her walk became more confident, her poses more natural, and soon she started catching the attention of photographers and designers. One day, during a photo shoot, a well-known fashion designer, Mrs. Amba, stopped by the agency. She was looking for fresh faces for her new collection. As she walked through the studio, her eyes fell on Kaya, who was shyly preparing for her turn in front of the camera. "Who is that Mrs.?" Amba asked, pointing to Kaya. "Oh, that's our new girl from the village," Amara replied dismissively. "She's still learning the ropes." Mrs. Amba seemed intrigued. "Let her step forward," she instructed. When Kaya came closer, Mrs. Amba smiled. "There's something different about you, child," she said. "You have a raw, untamed quality. I want you to model my new collection." Kaya was stunned, hardly believing her ears. This was the chance she had been waiting for. She nervously accepted, and within days she was thrust into the spotlight at one of the biggest fashion shows. As she walked down the runway, wearing one of Mrs. Imba's designs, the audience gaped. Her grace, her natural poise, her unique beauty captivated them. The next day, her face was all over the newspapers and social media. She was praised for her refreshing look and quickly became the talk of the town. Offers started pouring in, and Kaya was soon modeling for top designers and brands. The girl from Ubala was now a sensation in the city. Her fame grew, and with it came new challenges. She had to navigate the complexity of the modeling world, jealousy from other models, the pressure of maintaining her image, and the constant scrutiny of the public eye. She found herself at glamorous parties, rubbing shoulders with celebrities and wealthy businessmen. Yet amidst all the glitz and glam, she felt a pang of loneliness. One night, after a particularly grueling day of back-to-back photo shoots, she sat alone in her luxurious apartment, staring out at the city lights. Despite all her success, she felt a void. She missed her village, her parents, the simplicity of life in Ubala, and even the laughter of the children who used to tease her. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Omeka, who had noticed her recent melancholia. "Kaya, are you okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. Kaya sighed. "I'm grateful for everything, Omka, but sometimes I feel like I don't belong here. I miss my home," she said. Omeka nodded. "It's normal to feel this way, but remember, you have come so far, and you have inspired so many people already. You have a story to tell, and you are living it every day. Don't let the loneliness of a moment take away from your journey." His words struck a chord with her. Kaya realized that she had the power to bridge the gap between her two worlds. She decided to use her platform not just to model, but to advocate for young girls who felt different or out of place. She began sharing her story in interviews, talking about her upbringing, the beauty standards in her village, and how being different had become her greatest strength. Months later, Kaya decided to return to Ubala for a visit. She had been away for a long time, and though she was nervous about how she would be received, felt a pull to go back to her roots. She had sent word to her parents, but she didn't know what to expect from the rest of the village. As she approached the village square, she was surprised to see a large crowd gathered. The villagers, who had once mocked her for being different, were now cheering her name. Children ran up to her, laughing and waving. The women, even those who had once excluded her, came forward to embrace her. Zina and Omari stood at the front, tears of pride in their eyes. Mama Jua was there too, smiling with satisfaction. "See, child," she whispered. "Didn't I tell you that the gods have their plans?" Kaya hugged her parents tightly, feeling a wave of love and acceptance wash over her. The village elders invited her to speak, and with a steady heart, she stood before them. "I left this village feeling like I didn't belong," she began, her voice carrying across the square. "But the truth is, every one of us is unique, and our differences are what make us beautiful. I have learned that beauty is not just about how we look, but about how we feel about ourselves. No one should ever be judged or made to feel less for being different." Her words struck a chord with the villagers, and many nodded in agreement. They saw her not just as Kaya, the slim girl who had left for the city, but as a symbol of courage, determination, and self-love. Kaya's return brought a new wave of change in Ubala. Her story had gone viral, and the village began attracting visitors from far and wide, eager to see the place that had nurtured a city model. More importantly, Kaya's journey inspired many in the village to rethink their standards of beauty and success. The village women began celebrating their own unique attributes, and the young girls who had once teased Kaya now looked up to her as a role model. Even Moji, the girl who had mocked her at the Ubala festival, approached her with tears in her eyes. "I am sorry, Kaya," she confessed. "I was wrong to judge you. You have shown us what true beauty is." Kaya smiled and embraced her. "We all learn in our own time," she replied warmly. Before leaving Ubala, Kaya decided to give back to her community. She used her earnings to build a community art and learning center where young girls and boys could learn skills like modeling, photography, and even public speaking. She wanted them to have opportunities like she had never dreamed of. She named the center Mama Jua's Wisdom House in honor of the old healer who had first helped her see her worth. The center quickly became a hub of activity, a place where young people found a sense of purpose and belonging. The girl who had once cried by the riverbank in Ubala was now a symbol of hope and strength for millions. Her journey had shown the world that true beauty lies not in conformity, but in the courage to be oneself. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and empowerment. Remember, every story shared here is a step towards celebrating what makes us unique. If today's message inspired you, leave a light in the comments. Your words could spark someone else's courage. Until next time, stay bold, stay true, and keep shining. Once upon a time, in a land filled with sunshine and laughter, there was a village so pretty it looked like a painting, with cobblestone streets that glistened under the golden sun, and colorful flowers lining the pathways. This village was home to King Amani, a king loved by all because he was as wise as he was kind. His big heart reached out to everyone, making sure they were happy and safe. King Amani had a large family with 2 wives. His first wife, Lainey, gave him 3 daughters, princesses who were as beautiful as the morning sun. Then there was Tayo, his second wife, who gave him 2 brave sons, future kings of the land. The princesses were known for their playful hearts. Every day, they would run barefooted out of the palace, laughing and shouting, playing games and having fun, often climbing the large banyan tree near the palace gate or chasing each other around the lush gardens. They would go to the river, splash water, get all muddy, and sometimes catch tiny fish with their hands, releasing them back with giggles. Their dresses got dirty, and their hair was a mess, but they didn't care. They felt happy and free. But not everyone thought this was how princesses should act. They are too wild. People would whisper, "Why don't they behave like royalty?" They wondered. This made their mother, Lainey, very worried. She would often sit them down, her voice soft but firm. "You are princesses, my dears. It's time to act like it," she would say. But the princesses would just giggle and run off, their spirits as free as the wind. They wanted to be like everyone else, to play, to explore, and to love the land they would one day watch over. This made some in the village call them foolish. "Why can't they see they're not like us?" they'd say. But the princesses didn't mind. They believed being true to oneself was more important than wearing a crown. So despite their mother's worries and the villagers' whispers, the princesses continued to dance with the world, their hearts as wild and free as the beautiful village they called home. In this village, there was a festival that happened every year. This wasn't just any festival. It was for the princesses' brothers to find brides. On the day of this festival, the village square was alive with colors, music, and the sweet smell of festival foods like roasted yams, honey cakes, and spicy stew wafting through the air. Beautiful girls from the village and even from places far away came. They wore their prettiest dresses, adorned with delicate embroidery and sparkling beads, and danced beautifully, hoping one of the princes would pick them to be a bride. But in the palace, the three princesses watched from a window, their thoughts far away from the glitter and gold. When men came asking for their hands, the princesses would find reasons to say no. "He's too proud," one would say. "He thinks his gold can buy love," another would sigh. Even when a very, very rich man from another village came with lots of gifts, the princesses just shook their heads. They even splashed water on him when he said he wanted to marry all three to make his 7 wives. That made everyone in the village talk. "How foolish," they said, turning away all these rich and powerful men. Their parents, King Amani and Queen Lainey, were puzzled and a bit sad. "Why won't you marry?" they'd ask. "Your brothers are ready, and you are the elders." But the princesses would only smile and say, "When we find true love, we will know." The festival for their brothers was beautiful. Maidens danced and laughed, hoping to catch the prince's eyes. And though the princesses admired the courage of these girls, their hearts longed for something different. They didn't want a love that was found in a day. They wanted a love that understood them, that saw beyond their crowns. As the festival ended and the princes found their brides, the village talked even more. "What will become of the 3 foolish princesses?" they whispered. But the princesses weren't worried. They believed in their hearts that true love wasn't something you could find in a festival. It was something that found you in its own time and its own way. As the seasons changed and the moon danced its way through the sky, the princesses grew into beautiful young women. They watched the leaves turn from green to gold, thinking about love and what it meant to them. They saw their brothers happy with their brides, and something stirred in their hearts. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to open their hearts to love, the kind that would make their souls sing and fill their days with warmth. But it had to be true love, the kind that saw them for who they really were, One evening, under a sky filled with stars, the princesses went to their father, King Amani. They had a request, one that made the king's eyebrows rise in surprise. "Father," they said, their voices echoing with hope, "we want a festival of our own, a festival where men can show us their talents and skills. We want to find love, but it must be true love." King Amani looked into their eyes, seeing the earnestness shining back at him. He knew his daughters were different, their spirits free and wild. At first he thought this was not part of the tradition of the land, but nevertheless he thought maybe this was their way of finding love. So, with a nod and a heart full of hope, he agreed. The village stirred with excitement once more, with children running around in glee and elders sharing stories of past festivals around the fires. Word spread like wildfire from the corners of the village to lands far away. Suitors prepared to win the hearts of the three princesses. They practiced their skills, polished their talents, and dreamt of love. The village buzzed with anticipation. Tailors sewed fine clothes, adding intricate patterns to each garment. Chefs prepared feasts with exotic spices, and musicians tuned their instruments, creating melodies that filled the air with anticipation. This was going to be a festival like no other. The princesses watched as the village transformed. They saw the eagerness in the eyes of the suitors, the joy in the hearts of the villagers. They didn't know what the festival would bring, but they felt a flutter of excitement in their own hearts. Maybe, just maybe, among the jesters, the poets, and the warriors, they would find the ones who could see beyond the crowns, the ones who could see them. As the day of the festival drew near, the air filled with a sense of wonder. The princesses looked at each other, their smiles saying what words could not. They were ready to step into the unknown, ready to find love, but only if it was true. The village waited. The suitors readied themselves, and the stars watched from above, twinkling as if they too were eager to witness what was to come. It was the beginning of something magical, something that could change their lives forever. The day of the grand festival arrived, shining bright with the sun's smile. The village square was alive, buzzing like a beehive with excitement. Men from the village and lands far away came, their hearts set on winning the princesses, each one carrying a token of their land, some with rare gemstones, others with fragrant oils and silks. They came dressed in their finest, muscles gleaming, smiles wide, and gifts in hand. Some brought gold, others boasted of their lands. Many showed off their strength and beauty, each hoping to catch the eye of a princess. The princesses watched quietly, their eyes sparkling with mischief. They saw the efforts of the suitors, each trying to outdo the other. But deep in their hearts, they knew that gold and strength were not what they sought. They wanted someone who could see beyond the surface, who could understand their hearts. As the sun began to dip, casting golden light across the village, the princesses stood before the crowd. "We have a challenge," they announced, their voices clear and strong. "To win our hearts, you must do more than show your wealth or strength. You must guess our real names." A hush fell over the crowd. Names? But who knew the princesses' names? They were known far and wide as the three playful princesses, their real names a mystery, lost to all. The suitors were stunned. Guess their names? It was a task that seemed impossible. They had prepared to show their might and wealth, not to guess names. Murmurs spread through the crowd, a mix of confusion and curiosity. How could they find the names of the princesses? But the princesses stood firm, their challenge hanging in the air like a riddle. It was a test, not of wealth or strength, but of wisdom and patience. They wanted to see who would look beyond the titles, who would take the time to truly know them. The village buzzed with questions. How will they find the names? Is it a quest, a puzzle? The suitors looked at each other, their confidence shaken. The princesses watched, a smile playing on their lips. They had turned the tables, challenging the suitors to look beyond the surface, to seek a deeper connection. As the festival ended, the suitors left with their minds buzzing. They had come to show off their best, only to be met with a challenge they had not expected. The princesses had shown their cleverness, making it clear that they sought a love that was true, a love that saw beyond the crowns and the titles. The village whispered of the princess's test, wondering who, if anyone, could rise to the challenge. It was a story that would be told for days to come. A tale of three princesses who sought love in their own unique way. The challenge had been set, and now it was up to the suitors to find the answers. The quest for the princesses' names had begun. In the village, where everyone was busy guessing and whispering about the princess's challenge, there lived a man named Ikena. Ikena was known to all, but not for reasons one might expect. He was the village drunkard, often seen stumbling and mumbling, his days spent in a haze of laughter and wine. Most considered him foolish, a man of no consequence. But beneath the surface, there was more to Ikena than met the eye. When Ikena heard about the princess's challenge, something stirred within him. He saw what others didn't. A chance, a glimmer of hope. Why not me? He thought. Why can't I win the hearts of the princesses? So, with a determination that surprised even himself, Ikena set out on a quest to discover the true names of the three princesses. Day after day, Ikena followed the princesses, not too close, just a shadow among the trees. He watched them laugh and play, their spirits as free as the birds above. But no matter how closely he listened, their names remained a mystery. They called each other by nicknames, their bond a secret language of smiles and glances. Then, one day, fate took a hand. As the princesses wandered near the forest edge, the youngest, full of joy and mischief, didn't see the hidden pit before her. With a gasp and a tumble, she fell in, her laughter turning to cries of fright. "Help!" she cried, her voice echoing through the trees. "Please, someone!" Ikena, hidden behind a bush, watched in shock. This was his chance, not to win a challenge, but to do something good, something right. But before he could move, he heard the eldest princess shout, "Amara to the rescue!" Then the middle one cried, "Leela's coming too." Ikena's eyes widened. Names! The names of the princesses spilled like precious gems. He watched as Amara and Layla worked together, finding a long stick to help their sister hold on. "Talia," they called, their voices filled with love and concern. With a heave and a pull, the sisters lifted Talia from the pit, their arms wrapping around her in a tight hug. Ikena, still hidden, felt a warmth in his heart. He had found their names, but he had also seen the love they shared, a love that went beyond any challenge. Filled with a new resolve, Ikena stepped out from his hiding place, his heart beating like a drum. He knew what he had to do. With a shout that carried across the village, he declared, "I know their names. Amara, Lela, Talia, Talia. The village turned in astonishment. Ikena, the one they called a fool, had done what none could. He had discovered the secret that lay at the heart of the challenge. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Ikena, but for the princesses too. They had found someone who saw beyond the games, someone who had taken the time to truly know them. As the news spread, the village buzzed with excitement. Ikena, once the village drunkard, was now the talk of the town. His strategy, born of patience and observation, had revealed the true names of the princesses. It was a story that would be told for generations, a tale of unexpected heroism and the power of looking beyond appearances. As the village gathered, eyes wide and whispers loud, Ikena stood before King Amani, the princesses by his side. The air was thick with anticipation. Ikena, once thought a mere village drunkard, held the attention of all. I know the names of your daughters, he declared proudly. Amara, Lila, Talia. But Ikena had one more surprise, a secret that would change everything. I am not who you think I am, he began, his voice steady and strong. I am Prince Ikena from a neighboring village. I came here not as a fool but in disguise, to learn the true hearts of your daughters. The village gasped, eyes turning from Ikena to the princesses, then back again to the princesses, then back again. The man they had mocked was a prince, wise and cunning, who had seen past the game to the truth beneath. The princesses smiled at Ikena, their eyes shining with respect and something deeper, a connection forged in understanding and kindness. They had seen many suitors, men of wealth and strength, but none had sought to know them as Ikena had. He had shown wisdom, seen beyond titles and appearances, to the heart of who they were. King Amani, moved by Ikena's revelation and his daughter's happiness, agreed to the marriages. You have proven yourself wise and true, he said to Ikena, worthy of my daughters. The weddings were like no other, celebrations that filled the village with music, laughter, and joy. Amara, Layla, and Talia, the three princesses once thought foolish, stood proudly beside Prince Ikena, their hearts united in love and respect. As the princesses set off with Prince Ikena to begin their new lives, the village was left in a state of wonder. They had judged the princesses and Ikena, labeling them foolish, without truly seeing their hearts. But the love the princesses and Ikena showed was not about titles or appearances. It was about understanding, respect, and seeing the true worth of a person. The story of the three princesses and Prince Ikena became a legend, a tale of wisdom, equality, and the power of love. It was a reminder to all that true nobility comes not from birth or wealth, but from the wisdom of the heart and the courage to see beyond the surface. And so, as the sun set on the village, casting a golden glow over the land, the people whispered of the day's wonders, their hearts filled with a new understanding. The princesses and Prince Ikena, now bound by love and wisdom, journeyed forward, their futures bright with promise, leaving behind a village forever changed by the lessons of their tale. Thank you for sharing this adventure with us. Stories like these remind us of the magic in every moment and the lessons hidden in every heart. If you love this tale, stay tuned. There's so much more to discover. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep wondering, and let the stories guide your way. See you soon